Let's kick it.
Hey, this is Sasha Mobley. I am the author of The Strong Woman Trap, and I am kicking it with Doree.
Welcome to the Kicking It with Doree show. I'm your host, Doree Allen-Nieves, and today my guest is Sasha Mobley. Sasha Mobley is a life coach, a podcaster, and the author of The Strong Woman Trap. She helps clients overcome so-called impenetrable barriers with a blend of humor, insight, and righteous disobedience. Sasha especially helps women get out of their own way so that someday dreams become today's realities. Welcome to the show, Sasha.
Thank you, Doree. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
When I came across the press release for your book, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe that this book hasn't already been created, because we live in a culture where women are expected to do everything. You know, there's so many single moms out there. There's women, climbing the ranks, trying to break that glass ceiling, all these different things, in America where we don't make, dollar for dollar the same as a man in the same position. And we're trying to be strong all the time. We're trying to be caregivers, not only for our children, but also for parents. We're getting accelerated degrees. We're doing the most, in today's society. But yet we still feel like we have to do it all. We don't give ourselves permission to rest. We don't give ourselves permission to do nice things for ourselves. And some people call that selfish when you do. So I'm really, really glad that you're here today so we can tackle some of these myths, this main myth, which is the strong woman trap. And I know you probably fell into this trap, and that's why you're writing about it and trying to bring it out for other people. But I want to back up just for people that don't really understand exactly what we're talking about and have you define what you were referring to as the strong woman trap.
I am always trying to find a better way to say it, but I would say that probably what the strong woman trap is, it's the need for women to take on way more than they ought to be taking on, but somehow culturally we have been acclimated to taking things on. I mean, okay, so Doree, I have to bring up this thing that people are talking about so much right now. Me Too.
Yes.
Okay, me too. And somebody I know brought up such an excellent point. When we're talking about Me Too, we're trying to gain some visibility, trying to show the impact of women who have encountered, harassment, abuse, assault. And one of those little things that kind of is said to undermine the power of that is, well, what about the pain of the abuser? What about the pain of the abuser? So this is just like another way that women have to take on this additional emotional burden, on top of what is laid upon them culturally, right? So this is just another example of that. Culturally, women are supposed to absorb everything, including the emotional work of the people who are laying it on them. So I would say that the strong woman trap is just our amazing ability to just buy into that, to continue to absorb it to our own detriment. So it never allows us to get into our, when we start to get into our full power, it happens through shedding these burdens and these expectations about speaking our truth, being authentic, and really boldly stepping into our lives' missions. So to say it succinctly, it's hard to say it succinctly. It's really what we're taking on more than we ought to be taking on. And it's keeping us from doing the things that we really need to be doing.
Yeah, I think that some of us as women try so hard to be strong all the time that we're breaking down internally. And that's where we get into, those psychosomatic effects where, we're losing sleep and then we're not performing well. Mentally, we're foggy. Other, female organs start giving us signs of issues, and it's all because, like you said, we are trying to be strong all the time. We're trying to do everything. And even if we ask for help, some of us feel bad about that. Like we feel like we should be able to do it all because we saw maybe our moms or our grandmas do it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We've been trained from a very early age that to be gracious, to kind of step a little bit back, to not take the center stage, and to just quietly take on whatever is thrown at us, to just say, yeah, I've got that. I've got it. Don't worry about it. I have got this. In the meantime, we have these ideas about our talents, our abilities, and they're waiting. Those things are waiting for us to finally get through our long list of things that we have to do or we ought to do to actually do it. And those days never come. Those days never come until we actually start saying no to these culturally mandated things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you all have seen the t-shirts that say someday is not a day of the week.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's the dedication in my book to my friend Mary Dunseith, who used to say that to me all the time. Sunday's not a day of the week. Sunday is a day of the week, but someday is not. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've also seen it, a meme or something where maybe Pinterest, who knows, that says that dreams are goals without deadlines. I'd like you to share with us your story about you being in that strong woman trap and how you had to do certain things to get out of that.
So I have a long technology career, and I used to love to tell myself, oh, I have never been affected by sexism. I've never been held back by my gender in my career. And I kind of built this little cage around myself with the belief that as long as I was one of the guys, as long as I didn't let myself get offended by anything that was said or done around me, as long as I fought hard and gave back as hard as was given to me, I would always be able to be on the same level as my male colleagues. And I thought that was working really well for me until somebody really stepped out of line with me in the workplace with something that they said to me. And it was, part of like this, larger bubble of let's see what we can say to Sasha before she finally loses her shit. And the guy just crossed a line with me, and it just kind of came out of left field. And it was like, I wonder if he would say that quite so boldly if HR was standing here. And he turned 8 shades of pale, and was like, no, I didn't mean it. He's like, he was scared that he was going to be called out. Now, this was a while ago. Okay, this is when I was still pretty young. But then I just started saying, like, I was kind of, being eaten alive a little bit inside, just trying to hold my place in the workspace. And I always thought I was keeping my position by denying my feelings, denying who I was in the workplace, and just trying to keep doing everything perfectly, taking more on. And, when I didn't get rewarded or recognized for those things, just saying like, the quality of my work speaks for itself. And the fact that they aren't recognizing me, well, I felt I was building up this well of integrity by not going and demanding to be recognized or to be compensated for my excellent work. So I was working a whole lot and getting very little from it. And eventually it ended up me having I would say an emotional breakdown over it. And I had to reassess my whole life. But, there are several, of these they were just like these turning points in my life where, I would say like, okay, I'm going to say no to this behavior. But then there would be like this new layer of the onion that had to be peeled back of like this other thing that I was taking on. And so I've been, over the last 2 decades, I've been kind of peeling it back and just looking very closely at, the things that I am owning all by myself that really I could be getting help with, or I could be saying no to altogether. And at this point in my life, Doree, I realized that, the real power of women is in community,
Mm-hmm.
in supporting each other. And what was so disappointing and saddening for me to see is how many women, they still kind of cling to that old way of, I've got to just like be strong. I've got to isolate myself. I've got to be one of the guys. And instead of reaching out and, instead of competing with other women, helping build each other up and, building on the power of that. So if you look at, like our campaign, the campaign last year, I was shocked at how many so-called progressive women they were just like nitpicking Hillary. They were just nitpicking her to death. In the meantime, we have what we have in office, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a case of like, I see a speck in your eye, but then there's like this entire forest in the other eye. Nobody's looking at. And so we have what we have today because we nitpicked one person to death who, even if you don't look at it with too fine of a comb, was really no more at fault than any of her male colleagues, in terms of things that go on in the political arena. And so it's that kind of disappointing behavior that women have towards each other, where we are our own enemies instead of being our own best friends.
I think there's an unprecedented time in history where we have the freedoms that we have and the positions that we hold, and that times have changed so much, and so it is key for us to be able to get along, support each other. And if you don't agree with someone, there's lots of people that didn't like Hillary Clinton for various reasons. But even if you don't like someone, to keep it in perspective, because there's just so many other things going on at play. And I think that we see that a lot, in the corporate world. We see that in our families. So it behooves us to start with ourselves. I think it's easy for women to come against and tear each other down because of the way that they feel about themselves. I really think that I know it's been said so many different ways before, but I think that is really important, that feeling like, oh, I have to be strong and I have to be able to do this and do that and just take it and just take it and just take it and suffer in silence really is not what being strong is all about. I think part of being strong is being able to stand up for yourself, being able to feel confident about what you feel is right and what's wrong, and standing up for your values. That is what being strong is about, not how much can you take from somebody before you just give out.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're the only person standing there in your values, that can be a pretty lonely place. So like that next level is, building that community around. It's just like, if you're speaking your truth, that you aren't just speaking it into the wilderness by yourself. That's part of the hero's journey, but at the same time, finding those people who can come along with you, who can link arms with you and help you help you be strong in your truth. That's the power that I'm talking about. So not just being a strong woman in yourself, but learning how to receive and to give strength in a way that's collaborative and supportive.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. What do you wish that you had told your younger self?
Oh God, so it depends which voice is talking at any given time. I wish, when I look back, the thing that I wish I had told my younger self was to not be so damn competitive with other women. I mean, if I'm looking at, young Sasha who's just starting in her career, I wish I had gone and found ways to be more supportive with my peers instead of it's like I went so quickly into the being one of the guys when I was young because it was super easy to do. It felt at the time like it gave me an edge, but what I did was I lost opportunities to build strong supportive networks early on and to perhaps make real change as opposed to being all for myself. Being all for myself took me so far, but And I look back on it, and that's something that I regret. And if I could have mentored myself at the time, I would have talked to myself very seriously about that.
Well, I feel the same way in some respects as far as different things that I would have told my younger self. And I kind of was like you. I saw that there was a need, and I felt like, you know what, I'm going to write a book to address that need because I need this book and it's not here. And so I commend you on doing that because so many women have fallen into that strong woman trap. And so, in that spirit of mentoring, what is the one thing that you would tell a woman who is suffering from the strong woman trap to make her life better?
I would say there are two things actually. I'm going to say there are two things. First thing is I would say throw out all the nonsense. Just get rid of all the nonsense. Do an inventory of everything that's on your plate and question which ones of those things you're doing because you're expected to do it and for no other reason. Look at the expectations put upon you and look at it really hard. If you find that you're doing something just out of expectation and that it is really not part of your mission in life, that thing needs to go. It needs to go as quickly as you can make it go. The second thing is find your community, find your tribe, find the people who are on the same page with you and cherish that and build it and put yourself into it. I wish I knew those things early on because I think it would have made my life would have looked a lot differently. You know, the way I responded to things, the things I did would have been different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't we all? uh, but we're stronger together. So that is definitely a key. And I agree with everything you just said. Now, what can women do to keep themselves out of the strong woman trap?
Well, I would say that, you can use those two things again. One, always be, doing an inventory on the things that are expected of you. And, if there's something that it's really, really is for you to do, let's say it's an expectation, but it's also really your thing. It is, an important thing, something that really only you can do, that you can't, give it to someone else, or you can't really just ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist. Or let's say, and be the kind of person you want to be. Find a way to build support into that. Find a way to get support, emotional support, physical support. Find ways to multiply your effort so that your effort isn't just one there where you're just putting your shoulder to the wheel all the time, because your energy and your time are non-renewable resources. I mean, your energy is a renewable resource depending on how you use, what you do in your life, but time is never renewable. So if you find that you're using a lot of time to do something that actually could be done easier or with, more support, everybody benefits when you do that thing. Nobody benefits from you just grinding yourself into the ground. That is no good for anyone. It enriches no one.
That's correct. It actually like takes you away from what you should be doing and the people that actually have a legitimate need to depend on you, you know? So we've talked about what those negative things are. What kinds of rewards can women expect when they pull themselves out of the strong woman trap?
God, it's like an upward spiral. That's like that is the upward spiral, because things start to get better and better. And so one of the things I talk about a lot these days is the need to dream hard. Right now, there's two ways to look at dreams, and you mentioned dreams are goals without a deadline. Well, I think of dreams as being kind of like this juicy fuel for action, right? And so I think the more you shed the trap, the more energy goes into those elevating, sustaining dreams, that vision that kind of fuels your action. You start to think bigger. You start to say, well, shoot, I don't think that, reading a book on Sunday is great, but, maybe I could write a book all the rest of the week. Or, maybe you start thinking beyond the kind of like the little tiny breadcrumbs that you have for yourself, and you start actually thinking about the whole loaf, you know, the whole bakery. You start to think in much bigger terms because you are not being eaten alive. You have so much more capacity to expand yourself and to put that into the world, and by extension to enrich the world, right? When you expand yourself, you make the world a richer place, because that's what we're here to do. We're supposed to be our greatest selves, not our smallest, most picked over selves.
I like that, enriching the world. I think that thinking big piece really is crucial, because the people that you hang around and spend time with, the media that you consume, whether it's, certain books or news or whatever, if you just focus on that, then that could be very limiting, unless you're around people that are really going for it and they're really goal getters and they're really doing great things. Sometimes it's hard to be what you can't see. And I've said that before to teenage girls. I used to be a youth speaker, and I would talk to them about what, like, self-actualization and like thinking about what you can become. And if kids are just like focusing on celebrities and the Kardashians and the Jenners and, the basketball players, then perhaps they think like that's what life is really about and that's what I need to aspire to. But if they focus on their interests and talents, and they encouraged to not stare at all of those glass ceilings and all those people that haven't done it, but what is possible. Yeah, that thinking big really is bigger than, what people give it credit for. They say phrases like, oh, think outside the box. Well, we've been saying that so long that, now that's a box. That phrase. Exactly. But thinking big is like going where no man or woman has gone before, that type of deal. I mean, I don't know if you saw the movie, but if you did, what did you think about the movie Wonder Woman when that came out?
Oh my God, I could never stop watching that movie. We're going to watch it. I loved Wonder Woman, not just because I love Wonder Woman. I loved Wonder Woman because of, what she said. She said, it's not what you think you deserve. It's what you believe, right? It's not, it's not about what you deserve. It's about what you believe. And that, I mean, she looked at, the world, far away from Themyscira, Paradise Island, if you will, where things are, this little utopia. And she looked at the world and all of its problems. And she's like, the world, doesn't deserve me, but I believe, the world, she saw the redemption in the world. She saw what could be as opposed to what it had become. Mm-hmm. And so one thing you said that was really important to read was about, when you were talking to those young women about, about dreaming big and about not looking at the Kardashians, but, to look at each other, it's like you are the sum of like the 5 closest people in your life. I'm sure you've heard that one before. Mm-hmm. But to choose those people carefully and to bring them into that dreaming state with you so that you have a larger, more collective dream, so that you could see the potential and you can all move towards it together. There is so much power there. And we do it so little.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't do it nearly enough. But, I mean, I'm sure, and if you have the opportunity to work with those young women again, or, if that's in your plan, to just enforce them, that to build those circles of support and to bring each other up, to look to each other and to, see the creative force in each other, and to bring that forward, to create something even bigger than yourself.
Yeah, it's key because, they're growing up in an age where reality TV is normal to them. And so when they are seeing these women, especially, oh my gosh, I just really don't care for the Love and Hip Hop and Basketball Wives and all these different reality shows where women are just dressing horribly and degrading themselves and speaking so nasty of each other and just cheating on purpose and fighting each other and pulling hair and throwing drinks. It's, for adults, they might think that it's entertainment, but it really doesn't feed the soul at all. It really doesn't. And what kids are seeing, that's their normal. I have a couple of twin cousins that are in college now, but this was probably 2011. So I want to say they were about 16 then. I walked into the house. They live in Texas and I was visiting my cousin. Walked into the house and the two of them were just sitting in the bedroom watching Basketball Wives. And I was like, I looked at my cousin who's their father and I was like, what's going on? Why are they watching this? How come you're letting them watch this? This is poison. They're thinking that this is normal. It's okay. It's desensitizing them to people when they really are in pain. It doesn't teach them how to confront problems in a way that's constructive. It's just like, okay, we're just going to fight. We're just going to curse and fight. And that's how we're going to deal with our problems. No, we have such an angry, angry society now. And it's such a low tolerance and intolerant society. And it just burns me up when I think about it. But to them, that's normal because they grew up with that.
Duri, you're so right. And one of the things that has been so disheartening for me, Big Brother, the TV show that's like been off the air but like this is like one of the first reality shows. And I was watching my then girlfriend, now wife at the time, watching it with her mom. And they were like, oh yeah, we think this is really funny. This is entertaining. And I was like watching and I'm like, no, this show is doing something really dark. It is bringing out the worst in people.
Yeah.
And because, we're very complex neurological beings, it's activating that same negativity in the audience. Mm-hmm. And so the entertaining quality of watching people tear each other apart has become this cultural norm. As you said it yourself. And we have now, this is normal programming. So we're being purposefully bombarded with people's darkest, most negative qualities. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but this is what we're being fed, and it's becoming a norm. So if we look at the world around us today and the things we say, the people we elect, the agendas that we normalize, there is a huge connection there because we are all watching the same media. This is what's, predominant in our airwaves, and it's infected us at large. And I would say, don't watch it. If you have to turn the TV off permanently, do so, because you will not get away from the negative cultural dream that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not worried about the moral or value, fiber of us. They're just like, okay, what is going to be salacious? What is going to get people's attention? And it's a vicious cycle. The people that are participating and saying, oh no, I'm just, this is my life or whatever. I mean, it's just, I could like do a whole other show about just that, but let me not get carried away because it's something I feel strongly about. Yeah, it's
About that.
Yeah. Media Literacy Week is, I believe, the first week of November. And so there's going to be a lot more, at least I know on Twitter, there's going to be a lot more visibility about this. But I just really feel like people need to pay attention because we as adults, we are supposed to be the role models. We're supposed to be living in such a way that the generation after us is not going to just fall into that and say, okay, well, this is the way it is, but really get back to what is important and taking care of ourselves. And like you have been saying this whole entire episode, talking about community and supporting each other. And that is something that is not being learned if kids are just watching junk like that all the time.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
So, in closing, Sasha, I mean, this has been a great conversation, and I know you and I could, every single thing I've asked you, we could have like gone down different trails and talked for an hour about each one. I know you have a lot more to share. You yourself have a podcast that's called Escape the Strong Woman Trap. And
Oh, yeah.
I want people to be able to subscribe to your podcast, listen to you, and connect with you. But before we get to that, I just want you to give us one more thing that readers can find, maybe something surprising about your book, The Strong Woman Trap.
Okay, something surprising about the Strong Woman Trap. Well, okay, so I've revised the book like 3 times since was originally released as a Kindle book. And so I finally got the contract for it to go into print, as a print book, that was this time last year. And so I was telling the publisher, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I want to add this juicy bit, because after Hillary is elected president, I want to talk about what this means for us. So November 7th of last year, I'm just like lying in bed, just like feeling like the bottom has dropped out of my world. And I'm like, crap. And I'm like, oh, I've got something to say. And so I did revise the book. I added like 3 additional pages to chapter 3, which is my discussion of feminism and what, like the strong woman, like what feminism means and combating the tendency towards the strong woman trap. But I talked about basically, we talked about it a little bit earlier in our discussion about the cultural ways that women tear each other down that led to where we are right now, right? So actually, if you want to think about it, the role women play in our society is critical if we are going to turn the ship around. Women need to take a bigger role, and we need to start by not tearing each other apart. So I would say that's the little surprise bit in there. Go look for those pages. I was very proud of them.
Yes. And you're not the only one who was in shock that night. But anyway, please tell people how they can get to know you better, listen to your podcast, find your book, and everything that you do.
Okay, so you can so the podcast is on iTunes. I'm going to be recording season 2 very soon, but season 1 is up there. Escape the Strong Woman Trap. If you want to get your own copy of the book, you can go to just about any online retailer, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Powell's Books. I've seen it on the shelves at Barnes & Noble. You can just walk in and get a copy. It's also available as a Kindle book. If you would like to get to know me better, you can go to sashamobley.com. I have a blog there that I update every week. And it's also got all my information if you want to work with me.
Excellent. So Sasha Mobley has been a wonderful guest with us today. I hope that you will take advantage of her advice and think about some of these tidbits that are also going to be published in the show notes section. So you can check out links to her book and her podcast there. And Sasha, I'll have to invite you back again because we'll have to extrapolate on some of these pieces. I know that something else will happen probably in the next few months, and we'll be like, okay, yes, we're going to have to, both of us are going to be like writing and talking and tweeting and doing things. So, but this has been a great conversation, and I just appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad I got to come and talk to your audience, Doree. Thank you ever so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
If you like this show, I'd love to have your support. Visit patreon.com/kicking it with Doree, without the G, to learn more.